Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to your Diploma in English for Business, where tonight we are on Lesson 4. As always, it is me, your educator, Mark, and I'll be taking you through this lesson. So guys, we have a great lesson for you tonight, but as always, let's do a quick sound check to make sure everyone can hear me loud and clear. So if you can, say a big hello to the support team out there. So Tom, Jack, Jen, Neiman, all the guys, say a big hello to the team out there if you can hear me loud and clear. Okay, brilliant. Lots of you saying hello. Michael says hello to our great support team. Okay. Ahmed says the voice is good. Brilliant. Ayad is saying he hopes I'm well today. Thank you very much, Ayad. I am indeed. I felt a little bit sick earlier in the week, but I feel a lot better now. So, like I said, we have a great lesson for you tonight. But as always, let's have a quick look back at Lesson 3 and see what we covered. So it was the second lesson of our communicative skills, and we learnt about the art of negotiation, and you also gained the confidence and improved your ability to negotiate. You learned how to prepare for meetings involving negotiations, and we studied the conditional tenses, so the first, second, third, mixed and zero conditionals, guys. Okay? And some of you had problems with them, but I've got a good surprise for you. We also looked at an international case study involving negotiation, and that of course was the Apple CEO Timothy Cook apologizing to the Chinese market, okay? And we had lots of good terminology and my fantastic pronunciation as always. Now guys, a lot of you were having problems with the conditional tenses and you found it a little bit confusing and overwhelming. So, just so you guys know, anyone who purchased the toolkit, I added a new bonus video to your toolkits, and that bonus video is about the conditional tenses, okay? So it's only about 8 minutes long, and I go into much more detail about the conditional tenses. So if you are confused about them and you have the toolkit, make sure to check your bonus videos for that conditionals explained video, okay? So there's a nice little bonus for all of you. Now, in today's lesson, what are we going to look at? Lesson 4. You will learn formal English for business writing skills. You will explore the format of English for business writing. We will look at the stylistic conventions used when writing in English. You'll learn how to structure formal letters and emails, and we will of course have samples. You'll be exposed to connectors and linking devices. Don't worry if you don't know what they are right now. In the grammar, we will examine relative clauses, and of course all of this will include lots of new terminology, and I'll do my best with the pronunciation as always. Michael saying, what about the grammar? Exactly. We need grammar in every lesson. We're going to look at relative clauses, Michael, so don't worry. And of course, we'll finish up with a summary, a look at the next lesson, and the question and answers round as always. So, without further ado, let's start this evening's lesson. And we will start by looking at the general structure of formal English for business writing. So, very simply, how can you structure your formal English for business writing? Now, regardless what you are writing, guys, it's always going to follow the same general structure. And I think you will all know what this is. It will have an introduction, a main body, and a conclusion. Okay, so almost every single piece of English writing you do will have an introduction, a main body, and a conclusion. And the best way to think about this is the introduction is tell them what you are going to talk about. Then the main body, talk about it. Then in the conclusion, tell them what you have just talked about. Okay, so the main body is the main part, the main point of the writing. The introduction is going to tell them you're going to talk about it, and then the conclusion is just going to be a recap or like a summary. Always brainstorm your ideas. Now, this might be a new word, brainstorm. And what does it mean? It just means to think. think about your ideas and write them down. So I often have just a sheet of paper beside me and I do bullet points, just like these. These are bullet points. And when I'm brainstorming ideas, I just do bullet points of the main ideas or the main things I want to include or talk about. Exactly, Nader. Collect your ideas. So before you start writing, brainstorm your ideas. Then plan your writing. So you've brainstormed your ideas. Now you need to plan how to put it all together, okay? So I'll talk about this first. Then I'll talk about this point. So you can see it's a logical process. Of course, be clear and coherent. Remember, we've seen this word coherent. It means that people can understand you, okay? So be clear and coherent. Connect your ideas using connectors or linking devices. Now, we're going to look at a lot of these in just a minute, so don't worry about this. We will have lots of these for you to use and you will understand them perfectly. For each idea, this is how you should explain them, okay? You should have 3 or 4 steps. You state your idea, so say what the idea is, then explain it, and then give an example. If necessary, you can then further develop it, but it should have at least these 3. State the idea, explain it, and give an example. Then guys, always use paragraphs. For each different point, use a different paragraph. It makes it easier for the reader to see, okay, there's 2 points in this piece, and as they're reading, if it goes into a new paragraph, they know, okay, this is a new point. Then of course, use spell check and self-edit. So self-edit just means to read over it again, and even 2 or 3 times, and make sure that things make sense, things are in the right positions. And of course, if you're using Microsoft Word or any other program like that, use your spell check. It's a tool that you have available to you, so make sure to use it, guys. It'd be silly not to use it. Even I use spell check, because you never know. Sometimes if you're writing for a long time, you can make little mistakes without realizing it. So, some of the vocabulary here. The main body is the middle part, the main points, okay? Coherent means logical, Eamon, okay? So logical, easy to understand. To brainstorm is to think about and write down your ideas. Like I said, I usually use bullet points. So that's the general structure. Now let's look at stylistic conventions, okay? So, what is important regarding stylistic conventions in formal English for business writing? So, stylistic conventions means the different styles you can write in. So, of course, you have British versus American English. Now, in the webinars, I always point out different words that we use in British and American English. And as I always say, neither of them are wrong. But if you're using one, stick to that one. Do not mix them. So, which of these words are British English and which are American English, guys? First question of the webinar. So we've got organize with an S and organize with a Z. And then we've got favor with a U and favor without a U. So guys, come on. Which are British and which are American English? Who can tell me? Okay, Mustafa Nader saying organize with an S is the UK. Okay, and then yes, exactly. Favor with no U and organize with the Z is of course the American. So there are lots of little spelling differences in British and American English, and just remember to stick to one. So neither are wrong. If you're more used to American English, stick to that. If you're more used to British English, like I am, stick to that, okay? Just be consistent. Next, you have the register. And what we mean by the register is formal or informal language. Now, we're going to look at this a bit later. For example, think of an email, and you are sending an email to the CEO of your company. That, of course, is going to be formal. But what if you're sending an email to the guy who sits beside you in work, okay, just asking him about a report? That could be informal. Okay, so and of course there will be different words, different phrases, different ways to address people, and we will look at this later. Spelling, okay, of course spelling is important. This is an English course. I could say that in an informal email the spelling is not too important, but I would never say that because I'm an English teacher. So as far as I'm concerned, spelling is always important. Punctuation. Okay, what does punctuation mean? Full stops, commas, colons, semicolons, quotation marks, question marks, exclamation marks. That is punctuation, okay? And in the next lesson, lesson 5, we are going to look at every single part of punctuation. So you don't need to worry about that because you will all be masters at punctuation. Then you've got the type of writing. And depending on the type of writing, you will use a different type of language. So we've got essays, reports, letters, emails, etc. So for example, an essay is going to be telling a story. I did this, then I did this. A report, like we'll see in lesson 5, will use unbiased factual language. This happened, this is true. Okay, and then letters and emails, which we will look at later on. The style of language. So, for example, argumentative, persuasive, descriptive, etc. So, argumentative means opinionated. So, for example, if you were writing a complaint to, I don't know, maybe you bought a faulty product from a company and you were writing an email to complain about this, then you would use an argumentative style of language. Persuasive means to make someone want something. So, if you were writing a proposal, then you are going to use persuasive language because you want them to approve an idea or you want them to buy something. And then descriptive language is, of course, when you're describing things. And you would use this perhaps in an essay where you are being very descriptive. Okay, so different styles of language. Now, I promised we'd look at connectors and linking devices. And now we are going to look at lots of examples of these to help you all in your English writing. So what is the function of connectors and linking devices? They sequence or link your ideas and create structure to your ideas and the paragraphs to make them more logical, to make them more coherent. They also help introduce a new point and guide the reader through your writing. So how do they guide the reader through your writing? Well, we use connectors and linking devices for several different reasons. And the first one we're going to look at is sequencing and additional information. So this will guide the reader through your writing. For example, firstly, secondly, thirdly, and so on. This is guiding the reader through your piece. So if you have 3 different points, you could say firstly, secondly, finally. And this is guiding the reader because they know when they see the next paragraph starting with secondly, then they think, okay, this is the second idea. Finally, okay, this is the last of the ideas. So that's what we mean by sequencing. And look at the difference between British and American English. Now, this is not completely necessary, but this is how it would be common in US English. They would say first, second, or they could say first of all, second of all. When in British English, we would usually just say firstly or secondly. Then we've got some additional information connecting devices. Furthermore, moreover, in addition, additionally, also. Now, of course, also is more informal. The rest of those would be very formal. And then we have things we would use at the end, okay? So still sequencing, Finally, lastly, in conclusion, to sum up, in summary. Okay, so they're giving sequence to your writing. If people see those, they know this is the last point. Next up, we have contrast. Now, what does contrast mean? It means the opposite, okay? So, we've got however, and then of course we have but, which is informal. So if we are speaking, we would usually say but. That's the most common connecting device for contrast. Then we've got on the one hand, on the other hand. On the one hand, he is being paid a lot more money than everyone else. On the other hand, he does not work any harder than the rest of the staff. Okay? So it's for contrast. Then we've got although, and then even though, which we use for emphasis. And then we've got though, which is more informal. Okay, so though would be a lot more informal than although. And we've got whereas, which just means the same as on the other hand. Instead of, which means rather than. And then despite the fact that, despite, or in spite of. And they just mean even though. Maha, emphasis means when you're trying to emphasize something. Okay? So, for example, I don't know, for example, Stephen gets paid the same as me, even though he has just joined the company. So you're emphasizing the fact that he is new to the company. That's what emphasis means. So even though, okay? So a question for you guys. Which of these sentences is wrong? Although he worked hard, he never reached the company's targets. Despite the fact that he worked hard, he never reached the company's targets. He worked hard, however, he never reached the company's targets. He worked hard, but he never reached the company's targets. Instead of he worked hard, he never reached the company's targets. So which of those is wrong? Which of those is incorrect? A lot of people were writing in answers fairly quickly, but now the correct answers are coming in. So Sharif, Bahadeen, Abdul Majid, exactly. Muhammad, Khalid, Aya Hadir. It is, of course, the fifth one. Instead of he worked hard, he never reached the company's targets. So instead of, we do not use to show contrast. Okay, so that's not how we use it. So what do we have up next? We've looked at contrast. Now we're looking at comparison. So how to compare things. In comparison to or in comparison with. So they both mean the exact same thing. You can use either or. Muhammad, I don't want to see that sort of language in my webinar, okay? So in comparison to, in comparison with. They mean the exact same thing. Similarly or similar to. As or like, which are of course more informal. Okay, so they are for comparison. Next up, we've got reintroduction. So what does reintroduction mean? Well, when you introduce someone is when, when you introduce something, it's when you talk about it for the first time. So to reintroduce something is to talk about it again, bring it back up. So, regarding, concerning, as regards, in relation to, in connection with, in consideration of. So, for example, you could be writing an email to someone and saying, regarding the email you sent me last week. Okay, so it's reintroduction. You're reintroducing the idea of the email that was sent to you last week. We've also got with regard to, in regard to, with reference to, in reference to, with respect to, and in respect to. And guys, examples of these are going to be included in the email and the letter that I show you later. Okay? Now, next up, we've got cause and effect. So, therefore, thus, and hence. Okay? So they are used for cause. Therefore, thus, and hence. Then we've got because of, which is, of course, more informal, or just because. Sorry, I said therefore, thus, and hence are used for effect. They are used for the cause. Sorry, I'm confusing myself. Then, of course, the most common word, because, which is more informal. Then we've got since and also as, which are more informal also. And we've got as a result or as a result of, as a consequence, consequently, and due to. Okay, Zainab is asking the meaning of thus and hence. They just mean the same as so. Okay, so in formal writing we would not use so, we would use thus and hence. Okay, so for example, Mark had many students this month, hence his classes were so big. Okay, thus his classes were big. So they're just used the same as so. So guys, which of these sentences is incorrect? The company is expanding, therefore it needs to hire more employees. The company is expanding, consequently it needs to hire more employees. The company is expanding, thus it needs to hire more employees. The company is expanding because it needs to hire more employees. So which of these is incorrect, guys? Incorrect. Exactly. Good work, everyone. Almost everyone getting this one right. It is, of course, number 4. The company is expanding because it needs to hire more employees. That is incorrect. It needs to hire more employees because the company is expanding. So remember, cause and effect are the opposite. So to use because, the sentence would need to be the other way around. Okay? Now, what do we have next? We've got examples or explanation. So we've got for example, and then we've got e.g., and then for instance. Now, what does e.g. stand for? Okay, so we know e.g. just means example. What does it stand for? Well, it is Latin. Okay, so Latin is, of course, the ancient language of Rome and the whole Roman Empire, and many of the European languages come from Latin. So e.g. is short for exempli gratia, and it's just a Latin phrase that means for the sake of example. So when you see e.g., it just means for example. Then we've also got such as and like. So they are connectors for examples. Okay, Lamis, e.g. just means for example. It's Latin, it's short for exempli gratia, but it just means for example. Okay, you don't need to know what it stands for because it's Latin, you just need to know that it means for example. Then for explanation, we've got that is, i.e., in other words, and these are for further explanation. And i.e. is the exact same as e.g. Okay, not the meaning, but it is a Latin phrase, and it's short for id est, which translate as that is to say. So it literally just means that is. Okay? So i.e. just means that is to say. It's for further explanation. Then we've got in this respect or in this regard. And then in this case or instance. As shown by, as illustrated by, as presented by. Okay? So these are all for examples or explanation. So Amani, you can use i.e. when you want to give further explanation. Okay? So e.g. is used to give one or more possible examples, while i.e. clarifies something. You provide more precise information. Okay? And you'll see me use e.g. and i.e. throughout the webinars. I always use them, and you'll start to pick up on them now, okay? Now, next up, we've got generally or specifically? Okay, so let's look at generally first. In general, generally, typically, normally. Then we've got specifics. So in particular or particularly. In this context, in this case, in this instance. Now guys, look at these two words, and they are commonly mixed up, even by native English speakers. People always get these two words mixed up. So specially and especially. Now, can anyone tell me what they think the difference between these two words is? And don't say British and American English, because that's not the case. They are two completely different words. So, can anyone give me an answer or what they think? Ahmed says he was going to say British and American English. Okay. Well, it's quite simple. It's quite simple. Specially is for a particular purpose. Especially just means particularly. Okay? So, let's think about this. Mark was hired specially to teach English. So for a particular purpose. Mark was hired specially to teach English. Now let's look at especially. Mark is especially good at teaching English. So Mark is particularly good at teaching English. So, can you see the difference between them? Okay? And I mean, yes, I know the examples were kind of giving myself a pat on the back, but they were just the first examples I could think of, and of course I think they were true. Okay, so Mark was hired specially to teach English because he is especially good at teaching English. So you can see the difference there. So a question now to see if you understand it. Oh, and there's been a mistake with the slide. Okay, well, unfortunately guys, I have given you one of the answers because I have messed up the timing on my slides. But which of these sentences are incorrect? Okay, so the managers are specifically helpful in most companies. The managers are especially helpful in most companies. The managers hired John especially to increase sales. The managers hired John specifically to increase sales. So there is two incorrect answers here, guys. So I've accidentally given you one of them. Now, who can tell me what the other incorrect sentence is, guys? So what do we think? What do we think? What do we think? Okay, lots of good answers coming in, and very good, guys. This is difficult, but a lot of people are getting the right answer. It is, of course, number one. The managers are specifically helpful in most companies. Okay, that is incorrect. Especially should be used there. Okay, so good work to everyone who got that one correct, because that can be quite difficult. Okay, so remember, specifically is for a particular purpose. So the managers are specifically helpful in most companies does not make sense. Whereas especially means particularly. So the managers are particularly helpful in most companies. It should be especially, okay? So good work everyone there. Now, let's look at the language and conventions for formal letter writing. So we've had our connectors and linking devices. We've looked at the general structure of formal English writing. So now let's look at formal letter writing and the language and conventions for it. So we said we had three main parts: the introduction, the main body, and the conclusion. So first of all, we are going to look at the introduction. Dear sir or madam, okay? If you do not know their name, Dear sir or madam. Now remember, this is for formal letters, guys. If you do know their name, you can have dear and then their name. So you could have dear Mr. Kennelly, dear Miss Kennelly, dear Mrs. Kennelly, dear Ms. Kennelly. Now look at those 4 different words, and when do we think we use them in English? So we have Mr., Miss, Mrs. and Ms. Okay? So what do we think? When do we use Mr.? That is of course the easiest one. So what do we think, guys? When do we use Mr.? Exactly. We use it for a man. Very simple. The easiest one, we use it for a man. So, Mr. Kennelly would be me. Now, Miss, M-I-S-S, we use for an unmarried woman. Okay, so an unmarried woman. Exactly, Mustafa. Then we have Mrs., so M-R-S is pronounced Mrs., and that's for a married woman. And then finally we've MS, which we pronounce Ms. Okay, it's pronounced like M-I-Z, Ms. And that's if you are unsure, if you don't know whether she is married or not. Okay, so we use Mr. for a man, Miss for an unmarried woman, Mrs. for a married woman, and Ms., the woman can be single or married. Now guys, I will point out that nowadays this is extremely formal and it's almost a little bit outdated. So nowadays it is becoming more and more common to just use Ms. and make no differentiation between married or unmarried, and just to use Ms. all the time. Okay? So that is becoming more and more common. But this is formal English for business writing, and I want you all to have every bit of information. So that's when we use those 4 different titles. Then also, if you don't know who you're writing to, you can say to whom it may concern. So this is if you do not know what department or who you should be writing to regarding the issue. You can say to whom it may concern, and I like that one a lot. It's quite formal, but it's very good. Then you have your own address in the top right hand corner and the date underneath this. Then you have the company address on the left side at the top of the letter. So on the top right you have your own address. Then just below that on the left you have the company address that you are sending it to. Then let's look at the sign off, the end of the letter. Okay, so Hend is asking, would you please show us the spelling of Ms. That is not an abbreviation, Hend. Okay, so that's a very good question. I'll go back just for a second. Ms. MS, that is not short for anything. Okay, so Mr. is short for MISTER, and Mrs. is short for Mrs. But Ms. is not short for anything. Okay, it's just MS period. It's not actually short for anything. So that's a good question, Hend. So the sign off. Yours faithfully, Mark Kennelly, or whatever your own name is. Okay, so yours faithfully and then your name. Now, something not a lot of people know, we are supposed to use yours faithfully when you don't know the name of the person you're writing to. So if you started the letter dear sir or madam, then you would use yours faithfully because you do not know their name. Yours sincerely and then your name we use when you do know the name of the person. So if you began your letter dear Mr. O'Brien, then you would finish yours sincerely Mark Kennelly. Okay, so not a lot of people know that. Yours faithfully should be used when you don't know the name. Yours sincerely when you do. Keep it short and clear. Now, clear, of course, but keep it short. Don't make it any longer than it needs to be. Okay? Don't include unnecessary information. Use formal language and avoid contractions. For example, I'm. Okay? So, in formal English for business writing, we don't use contractions. You would write I am, you are. Okay? So you don't use I'm, you're. And look, we've used e.g. For example. Use formal language and avoid contractions. For example, I'm. Watch your punctuation and be consistent. So follow the same format and style. We've already looked at the formats and the styles. Make sure to be consistent and follow them. Use connectors or linking devices to shape your ideas and paragraphs. Okay, so we've looked at lots of connectors and linking devices, and make sure you use them. Okay, you've got an extensive vocabulary of them now, so make sure to use them, and use paragraphs. Of course, use paragraphs. Now, as promised, we have a sample formal letter for you all. And just remember these things when we're looking at it. Look out for the intro, so the introduction, the main body, and the conclusion. Look out for punctuation, and look out for connectors and linking devices. So, Mr. Paul O'Reilly, manager, Go Gadgets, 2 Fleet Street, Blackrock, County Dublin. Okay, so that is your own address. So we've got Mr. Paul O'Reilly, a good Irish name, and then your own address. Then underneath that, we have the date, 17th of January 2016. Then we've got the company address that you're sending it to. Ms. Susanna Herman, 21 Hammer Drive, Clontarf, Dublin 3. And Clontarf, in case any of you are wondering, is where we are based, where the Shaw Academy is based, okay? So, that's Clontarf, that's very close to us. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I'm just going to take a sip of water. So, we have started, Dear Ms. Herman, okay? So, we know her name, and she is here as Ms. Herman, or Ms. Susanna Herman, so we stick with that. Dear Ms. Herman. With reference to your order, number 3691, placed on the 11th of January, I am writing to apologize for the delay in dispatching the item. Unfortunately, the specific model of the laptop which you ordered is currently out of stock. However, it should be back in stock by Monday. We expect to ship your order within the next 3 days. Please do not hesitate to contact us if you have any queries. Thank you for your patience while we are resolving this issue. Now guys, which sign off are we going to use here? We know her name is Ms. Herman, so which sign off do you think we will use? Brilliant. The first person I saw with the correct answer was Naban, and it is yours sincerely, Paul O'Reilly. And then if you want, manager of Go Gadgets in brackets. So look at the connectors and linking devices we have used here. With reference to your order. So that's reintroduction. However, that's contrast. Now look at this. I am writing to apologize. Not I'm, not the contraction I'm. It is I am writing to apologize, okay? Then look at this line here. Please do not hesitate to contact us if you have any queries. That's an excellent sentence to use at the end of any letter or email. And look, it's a conditional. And the conditional clause is second, which means there's no comma. So just like we learned in the conditionals, okay? Now, a bit of vocabulary from that. To dispatch just means to send, okay? out of stock means not available to buy at the moment. Now guys, what is out of stock an example of? So, out of stock. Unfortunately, the specific model of the laptop which you ordered is currently out of stock. So, what is out of stock an example of, guys? Brilliant work, brilliant work. Bahadine and Shaima were the first people I saw with the correct answer. It's a compound adjective. Okay. Now, Mahmoud is asking what queries are. A query just means a question. It's a more formal way of writing a question. So, please do not hesitate to contact us if you have any questions, if you have any queries. To hesitate means to delay or to wait. So, please do not delay if you have any questions. Let us know straight away. To resolve the issue is to fix the problem. Okay, so lots of nice vocabulary in that sample letter. Now, that was formal letter writing. Now, let's move on to something that we all use in our everyday job, in business, in our professional life. And that is the language and conventions for formal emails. Okay, so emails are something everyone uses. And I know more and more, no matter what country you're working in, that people are communicating via emails more and more in English. So let's look at these. Now, it's similar to the formal letter writing, but there are some little changes when writing emails. They are never quite as formal as letters. So your introduction, dear sir or madam, and for an email that would be very formal. To whom it may concern, remember, if you don't know exactly who you are writing to, so if you have a question for a company, but you don't know if you should be writing to human resources or customer support or management or sales advisor, then you address to whom it may concern. Okay? Then dear, and then their name, and of course Mr., Miss, Mrs. and Ms. And these would be very formal for an email, often too formal for an email. So you'll see a lot of the time in emails, you would just say hi and then their name. So if any of you have received emails from me so far, don't worry, you definitely will before the end of the course. I usually just address you as hi Omar, or hi Shaima, hi Evelyn, hi Katya. Okay, so that's how I address my emails. And of course, don't forget to fill in the subject field. So the subject field, there's often confusion about this. The subject field does not need to be a full sentence. It can just be words or important words or phrases to get across the purpose of the email, the subject of the email. Okay? Yes, Maha, you can of course use hello as well. So I could introduce the email saying hello Maha. That's no problem at all. Yeah, perfect. So what other conventions? We have the sign off. Of course, we have yours faithfully and yours sincerely. Used in the same way, but remember, these are very, very formal. So we wouldn't often use these in emails. In emails, it is much more common to use best regards, kind regards, regards, thanks, okay? And then the name. So you can use any of these. They are much more common in emails. It would be rare that you are writing a formal email where you would need to use yours faithfully or yours sincerely. You can if you would like, and it's no problem, but usually we would use best regards, kind regards. I usually just use kind regards, okay? Keep the message short and clear. Now, the whole point of emails is to be short and clear, okay? Emails are only supposed to have the relevant information. So emails only have the points needed. There should not be anything additional or unnecessary. Use formal language. So if you're writing a formal email, you should of course use formal language. So, and a lot of the time your work emails will be somewhat formal, so you should use formal language. Use connectors or linking devices to shape your ideas and paragraphs. Okay, so you've learned all the connectors and linking devices, well, not all of them, so you should use them, and of course use paragraphs. So just as we did with the letter, let's look at a sample email now, guys, and let's look out for the things that we have just learned. So the email address, english.business@shawacademy.com. So whoever you're sending it to, okay, who we call the recipient. Then you've got your subject, English for Business course details. So it's not a full sentence. It's not a full sentence at all. It is just the important words or a phrase. Date, 3rd of October 2015. Although your computer will automatically have the date, so you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to think about what to type in. Any computer or whatever email system you use will automatically have the date. Alright, should hope it will automatically have the date. So, hi Mark. Like we said, in emails, most of the time it is perfectly acceptable to use hi Mark or hello Mark, even if it is relatively formal. I'm writing to you regarding the English for Business course. I just wondered how the course is assessed and what will I receive at the end of the course. I would be grateful if you could answer my queries. Kind regards, Jose Fernandez. So what have we got here? We've got hi to address the person. So hi or hello. You could say dear Mark, but there's no need. This is not a formal email. I'm writing to you regarding the English for Business course. Notice we're using a contraction because it's an email, so it's okay. And I'm writing to you regarding, that's reintroduction. I'm writing to you regarding the English for Business course. Now the recipient knows what we're talking about. I just wondered how the course is assessed and what will I receive at the end of the course. I would be grateful if you could answer my queries. That's a nice little line there. Kind regards, Jose Fernandez. And notice that it is short and clear. Okay? Very short and clear. Assessed means how it is graded. Okay? How the course is assessed, how the course is graded. Now, let's look at other expressions we can use for both letters and emails. So these are just some helpful expressions that you might find you can use for letters or emails, okay? Yes, Fatima, queries and inquiries are different. So inquiries is spelt INQUIORIES, and we're actually going to look at that in a second, so don't worry about that, Fatima. So I am writing to you in relation to, or I'm writing to you regarding. I am writing this letter or email to inquire about, or to inform you, to apologize for, to apply for, to confirm. So that's a great sentence to begin your letter or email. I am writing this letter to inform you about, or to apologize for, or to apply for the job, or to confirm your attendance. Okay? So your first line is telling them why you are writing the letter or email. With reference to, I would like to. The issue needs further clarification, or the matter needs further clarification. Thank you for your email concerning. We aim to rectify the issue as soon as possible. I would be grateful if you would, or I would be grateful if you could. Would it be possible to? If you need any further information, please do not hesitate to contact me. And look at that, that's a conditional. If you need any further information, comma, please do not hesitate to contact me. If you have any queries, please do not hesitate to contact me. We look forward to hearing from you soon. We await your response. That's a nice one to finish. We await your response. Okay, and rectify just means to fix. Okay, rectify means fix. We aim to fix the issue as soon as possible. Now, a lot of you are asking about if you attach a file. Well, very simply, please find attached the document you require, or please find enclosed the document you require. So, a very simple line. Exactly, Waleed. Assessed means evaluated. So, if you are sending a CV to a company, please find attached my CV, or please find enclosed in the email my CV. It's very simple. I always use please find attached, and you can use that for everything. Yes, of course, Rania, you can say kindly find the attached CV. That's no problem. Yeah, Mustafa's saying it as well. So of course, guys, this is not the only way. This is not the only way to write things. I'm just giving you useful expressions that can help you. Of course, there's lots and lots of other ways you can write these things. So we had some new terminology there, so let's just go over it quickly. And for those of you, Fatma, who was asking about inquiries, so look at this. To inquire about is to ask about something, a general query, okay? A general question. And this is typical in British English. Then we've got a different verb, to inquire, with an I. And this is usually used for making formal investigations. And it's typical in US English, okay? So it's worth pointing out that nowadays in English, both of these are often used interchangeably. People use one for all the meanings. But traditionally, this is the difference between the two. Inquire with an E is a general question, to ask about something. Inquire with an I is for making a formal investigation, okay? So that's traditionally the difference. But in practice nowadays, British English just use inquire with an E. US English use inquire with an I. Now, because I am an English teacher, I use both for their exact meanings. But like I said, a lot of the time now they are just used interchangeably. But this is an English course, and I want you all to know the exact difference, because that's what it's all about. Then we've got to inform is to tell. To confirm is to ensure. Further clarification, like we had in another lesson, is further explanation. To rectify the issues is to resolve the issues or to fix the issues. To hesitate is to delay or to wait. Queries, like we said, are questions. I would be grateful means I would appreciate. To require is to need. So I require your attention, I need your attention. Okay, so that was our new vocabulary, our new terminology from the formal writing. And now, guys, we had a lot of stuff there, so I think we need to ease off tonight's lesson with one simple thing. What do we all think it means? What do we think is coming up next? My favourite part, your favourite part, everyone's favourite part of the lessons. Exactly. I'm glad you all understand how this works now. It's time for some grammar. Woohoo! And today we are going to look. I don't want to see those sad faces. Come on, Elzbieta. No need for the sad face. Okay. So, for today's grammar, we are going to look at relative clauses. Now, this is quite simple, but it's something that people make mistakes on all of the time. Even native English speakers. So, first of all, let's see what a relative clause is. And we have two types. We have defining relative clauses and non-defining relative clauses. So first of all, let's look at an example from the letter. Unfortunately, the specific model of the laptop which you ordered is currently out of stock. So, who can tell me, is this a defining relative clause or a non-defining relative clause? So, who can be the first one with the correct answer? Let's see. And brilliant, Amar was the first one I saw with the right answer. Lots of people coming in now. Sakshi, Noha, brilliant. Evelyn, Michael, very good, very good. It is a defining relative clause. So, well done to all of you. And we will see why in a minute when we look at the difference between the two. This is a defining relative clause. Hassan says that you do not know the difference. Well, don't worry. In about 5 minutes, you will be clear on the difference. I am going to teach you, Hassan. I'm going to teach all of you. Okay. So, what is the function of a relative clause? They give us information about the subject or the object, and they can make two sentences become one longer sentence. They are typical in formal writing. So, the relative clause always starts with a relative pronoun. Now, what are our relative pronouns? Well, we've got who for a person, whom for, which is also used for a person. But remember, who is used for a subject, whom is used for an object. Then we've got which can be an animal or an object, that, where, and whose for a possession. Okay? A clause, Ahmed, just means the part of a sentence. So remember, when we did our conditionals, a conditional has two clauses, the conditional clause and the resultant clause. So the clause just means the part of a sentence. And we are looking at relative clauses here. And relative clauses always start with a relative pronoun. One of these beautiful words here. Now, let's look at the difference between the two. So, first up we have defining relative clauses. A defining relative clause, as it says in the name, defines the subject or the object. We do not use a comma to separate the sentence. And the relative pronoun that can replace who or which. So we use who for people and which for places or things, but in a defining relative clause, that can replace both of them. But it is more informal, okay? Now let's look at an example. The man who is the CEO of Shaw Academy participated in the 2012 Olympic Games. Now, first of all, I would like to point out that that is not true. It's just an example. I can tell you now that the man who is the CEO of the Shaw Academy most certainly did not participate in the 2012 Olympic Games. But it's just an example of a defining relative clause. So look, we did not use a comma, and we could replace who with that if we wanted. The man that is the CEO of Shaw Academy participated in the 2012 Olympic Games. Now, the relative clause here, who is the CEO of Shaw Academy? That's the relative clause. Who is the CEO of Shaw Academy? And this defines the subject. If we just said the man participated in the 2012 Olympic Games, you would not know who that man is. What man? Who is Mark talking about? Why is Mark being crazy? What is he talking about? This lesson makes no sense. So, this relative clause defines the subject. The sentence could not exist without the relative clause because it gives us the information we need. Whereas, in a non-defining relative clause, it provides additional or extra information about the subject or object. We do use commas to separate the clause, and with these we cannot use that to replace who or which. We must use either who or which. We can't replace them with that. Okay? For example, Bill Gates, who is the founder of Microsoft, participated in the 2012 Olympic Games. Again, I would like to point out, it is not true. I think we all know that Bill Gates does not have the physique to participate in the Olympic Games. No offense to Bill Gates. Hopefully he doesn't hear that I said that. But this is giving additional information about the subject. Look at this sentence. Could it exist without the relative clause? Bill Gates participated in the 2012 Olympic Games. Yes, it could. It could exist without the clause. We don't need the clause. It's additional information. Bill Gates, for those of you who did not know, who is the founder of Microsoft. So it's additional information, okay? So the difference between the two is actually very easy. Michael is saying that you're going to tell Bill Gates. Please do not tell Bill Gates. He has a lot more money than me, and he could do very bad things with me with that money, okay? So, a question to see if you all understand the difference. So, which of these is a non-defining relative clause? Employees who work hard will be rewarded. Steve Jobs, who was the founder of Apple, was extremely creative. A company which makes a lot of profit will be successful. A good boss rewards their workers. So which of these is a non-defining relative clause? Exactly. Good work, guys. Good work. Number 2, Steve Jobs, who was the founder of Apple, was extremely creative. It's very easy to see. First of all, I'll point out that number 4 is not a relative clause at all. A good boss rewards their workers, so that's not even a relative clause. So anyone who answered number 4 is very wrong. Shame on you. Number 1 and number 3 do have relative clauses. We see which, we see who, but they are defining. No commas. So the easiest way, comma, additional information. Who was the founder of Apple? Okay, so very good work to everyone who got that one. And that brings us nicely, guys, onto this week's class interaction. So well done to everyone who participated in last week's class interaction, but I want to see even more this week, even more. And remember, I don't want the answer now. I want you to tweet me this answer or comment under the YouTube video, guys. So get ready to do a screenshot or whatever you have to do for the next question. So here is an email, okay? Now, I want you guys to tell me, what do you think is incorrect in this email? So, do your screenshot, do whatever you need to do, and then I want you to tweet your answer to me at Shaw Academy EFB, or you can use the hashtag Shaw English. And remember that tomorrow I will put up a video on my YouTube channel and Twitter containing the answer and another fun challenge. So remember, my Twitter at Shaw Academy EFB, or if you don't have Twitter, my YouTube channel, Shaw Academy English for Business. So make sure to tweet the correct answer to me or comment under the YouTube video. A lot of people saying they can't find the YouTube channel. If you just type into YouTube Shaw Academy English for Business, you will find it. You will find it there. Okay? So, that brings us to the end of today's lesson, and let's just have a quick summary of what we learned. Well, you learned about formal English for business writing, and you explored the format of formal business writing. You studied stylistic conventions. You were exposed to connectors and linking devices, and lots of these. You examined relative clauses. And of course, we acquired much more terminology and were exposed to my fantastic, unbelievable pronunciation. So guys, now we can continue building on your English for business. Remember to attend all of the lessons live because you get to ask questions to me in real time and benefit the most. And as you all know, I try to answer every question you guys ask, but there are a lot of students, so it's physically impossible for me, okay? So that's why the fantastic support team tries their best to answer the questions I don't. And guys, remember that we are here to help, so contact us anytime, either me or my fantastic support agent Thomas McGovern. You can contact us at any time with questions that you have. For any of you that are Shaw Academy members and want some further learning on this topic, I would advise to look at lesson 5 of career advancement, lesson 7 of fast track business success, or lesson 4 of psychology of sales. They're great lessons to build on these topics. Now guys, what are we going to look at in the next lesson? Well guys, before anything else, I would like to mention to you all, okay, for the next lesson, lesson 5, we are going to be using a brand new system. So all of you now are using the GoToWebinar system, okay? And it often has a lot of problems, whether it's sound clarity or picture clarity or a lag in the picture, okay? And there can be a lot of problems. So we are trying out a brand new system on Monday, and you guys are going to get to test it, okay? So my course and 2 other courses are the only ones that are trying out this new system, and it's going to have better audio, better visuals, and just a superior performance, okay? So nothing will change with how you join the webinar. You still join the webinar just by clicking on the link in the email or by joining from your members area, okay? But if you are using the email from week 1 or week 2 to join the lesson, you will not be able to use that. So if you join through the email, then make sure you join through the email that will be sent to you before lesson 5. Okay, so don't use the old email to join, but other than that, it's the exact same. You just click on the link in the email, or else click on the link in the members area, and it looks a lot nicer, and I think you guys are going to enjoy it a lot, and it makes interaction a lot easier and a lot better. So you guys are getting to test it, so hopefully it all goes well for lesson 5. So that was just to let you all know. Now guys, lesson 5, the next lesson is Formal English for Business Writing Part 2. And you will explore English punctuation like I told you earlier. You will learn how to structure reports and proposals, and we'll have samples of those. In the grammar, we'll look at adverbs and the definite and indefinite articles. Then we'll also look at some new tenses, the future continuous and the present perfect. And of course, we'll have a lot more business terminology, and I'll do my best, as always, to pronounce things as well as I can for you all to understand perfectly. So remember to attend all of the lessons live, guys, and especially because we will be giving away that lifetime membership to one lucky student in lesson 6. As always, the recording of this lesson will be available in your members area within 24 hours, where you can watch the recordings of all the lessons. So any lesson you have missed, remember, go to shawacademy.com and log in on the top right and go to your members area. Now, that just leaves time for the question and answers round, as always. And like always, I'm going to just take a minute just to get a glass of water while you guys type any questions you have into your question box, and I'll be back in just under a minute to answer as many of you lovely people's questions as I can, okay? So I'll be back in just under a minute, guys. Get those questions typed in. Okay, everybody, I'm back and ready to answer all of your questions. So, I'll give about 10 minutes to this question and answer session, and I will answer as many as you want. So, the first question I can see here is Hassam saying, why do we only give one lifetime membership? Please, we want more. Well, Hassam, we only have one to give away per course. So we have a lot of courses here at the Shaw Academy, and we can't give lifetime membership to everyone because lifetime membership is very expensive. Okay, so that's why we only get one per course to give away, and it wouldn't be as special if we gave it to everyone else. Okay, so unfortunately, we can only give away one. So Odette is asking, in one hand and in the other hand, are they used in the same sentences? You can do both, Odette. You can use them in the same sentence, separated with a comma, or you can use a full stop and create a new sentence. That's completely up to yourself. There's not much of a difference, okay? Let's see, what else? What else? Okay, and Odette is also asking, is specifically means specially? Specifically is not a word, Odette. Okay, so you've got specially and especially, and then you've got specifically. Okay, there's no word specifically. Okay. So let's see. Amar is saying, is it live? If one fails, they cannot be given their certificate. Okay, I'm not sure what you are asking, Amar. I think you're asking if you fail the final assignment, can you still get the certificate? If you fail the final assignment, you can repeat it. Okay, you can repeat the final assignment, so don't worry about that. Lots of people asking how they can watch the previous lessons, guys. You should all know this. You should all know this by lesson 4. You log into the Shaw Academy website and go to your members area, and then you will see English. You will see English for Business, November 14th. So, or November 15th. Okay, so that is your course, and you click into that, and you will be able to see the recordings of all of the lessons. So whether you miss a lesson or you just want to watch them again, that is where you find those recordings. Okay? Let's see. Mahmoud is saying the difference between want, wanna, and using informal and informal. Okay, Mahmoud, you should never use wanna, okay? Because that's not an actual word, okay? That's slang. It's colloquial. So there's a difference between informal and slang, and wanna is slang. So you would never use wanna in any written correspondence, okay? You would only use that in colloquial language when you're talking to friends and things like that. Okay. Bothaina is saying, could I answer the first assignment now? Of course, guys. The weekly assignments can be done as many times as you like. They are not graded, they are just practice. So, week 1 or assignment 1 was put up last week, and assignment 2 will go up this Friday. And guys, I encourage you to do these weekly assignments because they are great practice, okay? And they can also be found in your members area on shawacademy.com. Okay. Naban is saying, when can you use I look forward to hearing from you? Formal or informal? Naban, that could be used for both. It is quite formal, so you can use it for both. I look forward to hearing from you. Okay? It would be more common in an informal email, but you could use it for both. Okay? Now, Roida still doesn't understand specially and especially. Okay, so specially beginning with S is for a particular purpose. Okay, so Mark was hired specially to teach English. He was hired for that particular purpose. Whereas especially, beginning with an E, means particularly. So, Mark is particularly good at teaching English. Mark is particularly good at explaining things. So Mark is especially good at explaining things. Mark is especially good at teaching English. Okay? So does that make sense? We use the GoToWebinar system specially for these webinars. Okay? But GoToWebinar is especially slow when there are lots of students. So I hope that explains it a lot. And the examples I'm using are real life examples, because that's why we're changing from GoToWebinar to a different system, which you will all see in the next lesson. Okay. So let's see. Abdulaziz is asking when to use can you or may you. Okay. So the difference between can and may, there is very little difference. Okay, there is historically a formal difference, but nowadays you can use them interchangeably, Abdulaziz. So may, a lot of people think may is slightly more formal. Okay, so can I have a can of Pepsi? May I have a can of Pepsi? Okay, so may sounds a bit more formal. Anant is asking, can I purchase the toolkit anytime after course completion? Yes, Anant, you can, but I would recommend purchasing it before the end of the course, because it will help you throughout the course, and it will also help you with the final assignment. So remember guys, that toolkit includes the webinar slides, which you can download. So it's the only way to have a permanent copy of the lessons. It includes summary notes for each lesson, which you can print out before each lesson to help you through. And then it also includes bonus videos that I upload throughout the course to help further explain certain topics or to give additional topics. So right now, or like I said at the beginning of the lesson, I put up that conditionals explained video. So it's an 8-minute video on a deeper understanding of the different conditionals. Okay. Later on in the course, I will put up a bonus video on how to give a good presentation. So I upload these bonus videos throughout the course. And if you want to purchase that toolkit, you can do so from the members area. Okay, Ayat just wants to know how to attend the next webinar. So tell me again. Okay, so Ayat, you will join the next webinar the exact same way. Okay, either through the email or through your members area. So however you attended this webinar, it will be the exact same, except instead of opening an application, which it does for GoToWebinar, it will just open a browser. Okay, so you don't even have to open an application, you just open a browser. Just make sure that you are not using an old email to try and join, that you are using the email that will be sent before lesson 5. Okay, but other than that, there will be no difference in the way you join. The time period to download the toolkit material, it depends on your internet connection, Anant. I mean, when I download it, it takes maybe 3 seconds, but of course it just depends on your internet connection. Okay, so don't worry too much about that. Okay, Mohammed is asking how to use the possessive S for plural nouns. Now, Mohammed, that's very simple, and we're going to look at it in the next lesson in punctuation. Okay, so when we look at the apostrophe in punctuation in the next lesson, we will cover that. So don't worry about that. Okay, Mai is asking, are the lessons recorded on YouTube? Oh, sorry. Did the lessons recorded on YouTube channel are downloaded months ago, or they're a new channel? I'm not sure what you're asking there, Mai. If you're asking about my lessons, they are not on YouTube. For copyright purposes, we do not put them on YouTube, because then you could watch the lessons anytime you want, and then people would not use Shaw Academy because they would just watch the lessons on YouTube. So that's why we do not use YouTube. We do not put the lessons on YouTube, and why we don't let students download the lessons. Okay? So I'm going to take one or two more questions, guys. One or two more questions. Waleed is asking, will the recordings last forever in my account? Unfortunately, Waleed, they will not. Okay? When at the end of the course, which I think the deadline of the course for you guys is December 11th. I could be wrong, but it's somewhere around there. After the deadline, you will lose access to the recordings unless you are a Shaw Academy member. Okay. So, maybe one more question. Hend is asking, what is the starter kit you talked about in the first lecture? Okay, so there's the toolkit and the starter pack. The toolkit is this educational aid that I have for the course. It includes summary notes, webinar slides, bonus videos, and the starter pack. The toolkit you have to pay for. You have to buy, and it costs $19.99, and you get all of those things. However, in lesson 1, I gave all of you one piece of the toolkit, which was the starter pack. Okay, and the starter pack is available in your members area. So if you go to your members area and click on toolkit, you will see that summary notes, webinar slides, and bonus videos are locked. However, starter pack is unlocked because I gave you all the starter pack for free. Okay? Raymond asks how many times we are allowed to answer the final assignment. As many times as you like, Raymond. As many times as you like. We don't like people to fail here at the Shaw Academy, so you can do it as many times as you like. So guys, I'm gonna wrap it up now for lesson 4. I've answered as many of your questions as possible. I hope you all join me live next week for lesson 5, where we look at part 2 of Formal English for Business Writing, and I look forward to seeing you all then. So guys, have an absolutely fantastic weekend, and I'll see you all next week for lesson 5. Goodbye.